Okay, good evening, everybody. Before we get started, we're going to be doing a short 2-week series on shame and shame reduction. And I want to begin by doing the reading from the language of letting go. And this one from June the 5th. Combating shame. Shame can hold us back, hold us down, and keep us staring at our feet. Watch out for shame. Many systems and people reek of shame. They are controlled by shame. They want us to play their game with them. They're hoping to hook us and control us through shame. Compulsive behaviors, sexually addictive behaviors, chemical abuse, and all addictive behaviors are shame-based behaviors. If we participate in them, we will feel shame. It's inevitable. Our past and the brainwashing we may have had that imposed something called original shame upon us may try to put shame on us. This can happen in some of the strangest times, when we're alone, walking through the grocery store, or just quietly going about living our life. Don't think, don't feel, don't grow, don't change, don't be alive, don't live life, be ashamed. Be done with shame. Attack shame. Go to war with it. Learn to recognize it and avoid it like the plague. Today, I deliberately refuse to get caught up in the shame floating around in the world. God, help me know that it's okay to love myself. Help me to refuse to submit to shame. For good, of course, help me learn to change shame into guilt, correct the behavior, and move forward with my life in immediate self-love. I want you to keep that last line in your mind as we go through the lecture tonight. Forget, of course, help me learn to change shame into guilt, correct the behavior, and move forward with my life in immediate self-love. The reason why I said that is because one of the things connected with shame, and it's the one thing that really helped me tremendously to be able to look at this concept of shame. Actually, there were two things that helped me. One was being able to connect with a gentleman, God rest his soul, is not with us anymore, named John Bradshaw. I had the wonderful, wonderful opportunity a long time ago to go to some of his workshops he did at PBS. Very special. He had something special about him. And one of the things he talked a lot about, and I'll mention it later on in the talk, is something called shame reduction, which to me is the ultimate weapon in dealing with aspects of shame. The other thing I just wanted to bring out, which is really important, is when I was working my eating disorder program, I went to some meetings of a program called Anorexics and Bulimics Anonymous. And in their big book on chapter 5, they have this beautiful, beautiful chapter on something called the iceberg theory. You can find that iceberg theory, by the way, on our website under Vince's Corner, down to the bottom where it says alternate resources. I learned about the iceberg theory because it taught me a lot about my life, about my addiction, and about things I was dealing with in life. And the theory is very simple. The core root of the iceberg, and the iceberg are the parts of us that many of us, myself included, for a long period of time, did not want to look at. But the core root of it is shame. Another name for shame is self-hatred. And the bottom line is, the real element of shame is the concept of being empty spiritually. You know, it took me a long time dealing with a lot of things and a lot of years to finally come to a realization of this. And what I learned on that iceberg theory, it was the story of my life. I never realized it, but way back in 1973, a beautiful doctor, I wish I remembered his name, but I don't, who treated me at Cooper Hospital when I had my nervous breakdown and said to me, I was a priest at the time, he told me I was spiritually dead. I didn't know what he meant. Now I do. I didn't realize it, but I had closed off so much things in my life, especially I had shut down any type of feeling at all. And now I understand the concept of shame. And how literally, when you feel a lot of shame and you're buried in shame, then what you do is you live your life externally and not internally. You avoid, you run away, you hide. The name for that avoiding and that running away and that hiding is called addiction. And addiction has many faces, just as shame does. And it's amazing because I don't care what the addiction happens to be. An addiction is a cover up. It's a way to avoid. It's a way not have to face, not have to deal with stuff because of shame. You know, I'll share a story with you of a person I had the honor and privilege of working with. And I'm not going to tell the whole complete story because I don't want to kind of give away who it is. But this gentleman was a highly, highly professional person who for years functioned and functioned very powerfully and was able to literally, if you want to use the term, move mountains. He was able to get a lot done. The only problem was, for a good portion of his life, he was able to function because of his secret drug addiction. As long as he used certain drugs, then he could perform and get things done in front of people. Without the drugs, he was just a lonely, scared little kid. It's amazing how that little element of an addiction turned him into this super person. But was it real? No. Because deep down inside, he had a secret. And so for a long period of time, he got away with it until it wreaked havoc on his body. And as a result of developing some real powerful illnesses, he ended up having to finally deal with the addiction he had carried secretly for a long period of time. With the grace of God in recovery, thank God he's doing good today, but he no longer functions in that role that he did when he was using the drugs. In short, he had to restructure his whole entire life. That is the biggest part about shame, because so many of us, so many times, will make so many decisions in our life because we're scared. Fear, loss of control. It's two key elements of shame. And the other part of it is, it's almost like I get caught up in expectations. Other people expect things of us. So as a result, many of us stay in situations for long periods of time. And so shame takes a lot of faces, a lot of directions. Can take you from the professional level down to the bottom. Can take you in a lot of different directions because of the pressure we put on ourselves. Because so many of us, for a long period of time, even relating back to our childhood, had to be what I call performers and actors. And as a result, then, instead of living and celebrating and be who we are, we had to live out the expectation of others. And we began to live for them. You know, I relate to this very much because this was me in the priesthood. Even though I functioned extremely well as a priest, I did a lot of good. but I almost destroyed the inside of me with addiction, with my eating disorder, with the ways in which I coped and dealt with. And like anybody else, it is the last thing in the world I wanted to deal with. It took a lot of people who had to kick me in the right spot, get me moving. And I can say this honestly today. Every addiction I've ever worked on in my life, I came into it through the back door. I came into it because I didn't want to do it. But I did it very many times because of shame. But shame drove me to try to prove to other people that what they were saying and pushing me to do wasn't real, even though it was. You've heard the term in Al-Anon a lot of times, the elephant in the living room. So many times in life, the elephant is sitting right next to us. We don't even know it. That elephant can be addiction, can be behavior, can be behaviors, it can be a lot of different things. It has many faces. And so shame literally takes on. And that's why I like the concept of the iceberg theory, because it takes on all different types of things. It takes on narcissism, negative behavior. It takes on fear, takes on guilt. It takes on all different faces and aspects of life. It can take on isolation, can take on hiding, can take on lying, making stories up, avoiding. It has a lot of faces, but they're all faces of shame. Because deep down inside, if you don't know who you really are, and the adventure of recovery, the adventure of growth, and Bradshaw put it so beautifully when he talked about healing the shame and being able to build a relationship with it, to be able to realize the fact that we are not the shame. And yet many of us were trained in it. As little children, we were given many rules and regulations. In my generation especially, it was decided for me what I was going to be. I didn't have a say in the matter, because back then, as many of us know, whatever they wanted you to be, that's what you did, even though you don't want to be. And so literally you lived out the expectations of others. You lived in many different directions. You know, it's ironical on more of a different tone, but when I was umpiring baseball and a referee in basketball, I could see how so many parents basically would put pressure on young kids to be maybe what they never were and want them to excel, you know, because I don't know what they thought. Maybe there was somebody sitting in the stands watching them, but boy, oh boy. I'll never forget when I reffed a Little League game. Now I'm behind the plate, and whenever I reffed a Little League game, I never used the inside chest protector. I used the balloon. I kept that in front of me. You know why? I had these little kids that were catchers who never caught the ball. I caught the ball. So it was a protection for me. But I never forget one time, this little kid, at the most maybe 50 pounds, 55 pounds, the equipment he was wearing, the catcher's equipment, probably weighed more than him. It looked like it did anyway. He was behind the plate, and there was this kid on third base who probably was, I don't know, 110 pounds. His father is behind the backstand yelling to his little son, block the plate. Don't let him get in. Remember, be like Johnny Bench, who played for the Cincinnati Reds. Be like this. You know, I stopped for it. I said, you got to be kidding me. This kid ever blocked the plate, we never find the kid again. I turned to the Father and I said, go get a life. Get out of here. That's amazing. But you know, so many times kids told me this. They would turn around and say to me when I was umpiring, I wish my parents would never come to the game. I just want to have fun. I just want to play. But expectations. So shame takes on a lot of faces. And sometimes we don't even know how we inflict shame on others. I call it performance shame. We don't even know we're doing it. Not that it's a judgment. It's just that we do this because we want everybody to be the best they can be. And so we push them and drive them and don't give them the time just to be able to find out what they want and go through the process of it. So the one thing I learned so powerfully about the different faces of shame, you can see it in so many different areas and it's interconnected. But it comes down to that core, it comes down to that center. Because the secret to dealing with shame is being able to go to the core of the center and develop a sense of who we are as a person. It is the acceptance, it is the beauty of being able to be who we are and not try to be somebody else. That's why one of the things John talked about is something called shame reduction. So in the process of working on shame, and I'll spend a lot of time on this next week when I talk about healing the shame. In order to be able to face our shame and deal with our shame, we have to learn how to acknowledge it, how to reduce it down to a manageable level, so we can then embrace it, learn from it, and grow from it. See, I realized today all the things I went through in my life, all the things you went through in your life, they're all part of your history. They're part of who you are. And you can go back and you can play the game that I played for a long period of time. You know, and we all play it one way or another. I used to blame my mother and blame my father and blame my family and blame the church and blame the community and blame this one and blame that one. And God, it was a fantastic game. All I was doing is avoiding looking at me. It's so much easier to be able to do somebody else's inventory. I've often said this so many times when I did the codependency series, that codependents are the only people who, when it comes to the 12 steps, we start with step 4. We take everybody else's inventory and we forget somebody. We forget ourselves. He's talking about my mother. He's talking about my sister. He's talking about my neighbor. He's talking about my brother. Nah, I got to stop and look in the mirror. We have to look at each other. And the most beautiful part about recovery, being able to face the shame, is to allow the shame to become our teacher, to allow to be able to grow and learn from it. And yet to be able to do that, we have to acknowledge it. We have to embrace it. We have to be open to it. And that's the concept called shame reduction. As I said, shame has many faces. From the core center of that iceberg, I can look at all the different faces: self-pity, being a perfectionist, being hard on yourself, lying to yourself, lying to others, being able to have fear, guilt, loneliness, emptiness, all these things. What am I searching for deep down inside? I'm searching for myself, for the gift that God gave me, the gift of my love, the gift of my personhood. And yet it's hard, it's not easy, I know that, because we've been mired in some of this stuff for a long period of time. A good psychologist friend of mine told me this, he said, and I do understand it today. He said, people talk a lot about the midlife crisis, around age 35, 40 years old. But really, in reality, it is something that's real. Because true or not, and you know this as well as I, back when we're 20 and 21 years old, back in the age when we had the answers to everything, remember that? We had the horse by the tail. You're not supposed to have it by the tail, you're supposed to have it by the reins. But we thought we had it all together. Then we had to go through our own battle scars and learn and go transition and go through change. And many people, that change usually takes place, psychologists will tell you, between 35 and 40 years old. You have to grow up, you have to mature, you have to look at yourself. I mean, nobody told me about it until I was 48, but that's all right. But the bottom line is, I'm realizing the fact that it's a transition, it's a change process you have to go through. Why? Because many of us live in fear. And the priesthood, though I loved it, don't get me wrong, I learned a lot. It was a great place for me to struggle and learn and find out. But I know my biggest fears were if I transition and if I change, how would I be able to do it? How could I survive? You know, all the shame came into play, my family. What would they think of me? What would people think? Back and forth, everything else. You know, and it drove me right into the ground for a period of time until, with the help of a lot of beautiful people and with a lot of pushing, I was able to make that transition. It was the greatest transition of my life. That's why I joke today and I say I probably have lived two different lives. But it's like experiencing that concept of being come alive again. Yes, was it scary? It was scary as hell. I don't know what was going on. I did one thing I learned how to collect welfare from the welfare line in Philadelphia. I found out what it was like to be on food stamps. I had to report to the unemployment agency, see if they had a job for me. But it was good. It was humbling. It was a great experience. It was a transition. And I'm grateful for it today. And I realize how important that is. Do I still have a lot of my codependency behaviors? Sure. Loretta will tell you. I still do my thing. But at least now I'm aware of them. I'm in touch with them. They're part of my being. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to learn. It's okay to grow. It's okay to make more mistakes. It's okay to be able to go through the process of life. It's so important. We don't give ourselves that permission, though, because we have this craziness inside of us, and it's the element, the core element of shame. And that is, I want to be in control. So much more fun not to be in control. Everything goes where it's supposed to go. God works in mysterious ways. And I'm learning over and over again. Now I do understand phrases I learned a long time ago, that faith can move mountains, that belief, or that beautiful thing from the field of dreams, build it and they shall come. Have faith, belief. And you know, you can sleep better at night, you be open better at night. But also realize the fact that every day you're going to go through some fear, you're going to go through some guilt. Because again, I realize in life, there's two sides to it. There's a healthy part of fear, and there's an unhealthy part of fear. There's a healthy part of guilt, and an unhealthy part of guilt. On occasion, yeah, guilt's okay. It helps me to be able to handle things and do things better, to learn from it. And so it takes a concept of people. That now I understand why the founders of AA put together this beautiful 12-step program. And they put together a support system with each other. It takes a family to raise a child. And many of us are children, still in process of being raised. And we're still learning. We can't do it alone. We need to be connected. and family is part of it. And so we learn in the concept of the faces of shame. We all have many. I can go through this iceberg theory and rigidity, tunnel vision, trying to avoid, to run away, to hide. I mean, it's got a lot of faces. You can take a look at it yourself. But it comes down to looking at ourselves physically, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. Physically, many of us have a lot of shame about our bodies. Why? Because we live in a world where you're supposed to look this way, you're supposed to look that way, and Facebook is really into it right now. They got about 85 different pills you can take, and you can lose 45 pounds in 2 days. Sure. I mean, they're good gimmicks, what can I tell you? But the bottom line is, it's not about that. It's about honoring your body, embracing it, with all of its idiosyncrasies, with all of its aches and pains, with the things that are going on inside of it. Now I understand what Louise Hay used to say about disease. She used to say, take it easy, ease up. Your physical body reacts to your emotional self. If you're peaceful on the inside, to be peaceful on the outside. And the same concept applies. A gentleman right down the street from me, about maybe 7 houses down the street. He's 103 years old. He still goes to the gym in the morning. Doesn't do too much at the gym, but he goes to the gym. At the same time, basically, he plays cards. They asked him one time, what your secret to life? He says, I don't know, I just live. Real simple and real plain. Will he make it to 104? I don't know. The way he's going, he's probably going to be around to 115. He's still getting around. He's still doing his stuff. But the secret, he said, is rest when you're tired. I love this phrase. Eat when you're hungry. When you're angry, talk about it. If you're lonely, hang around some people, play some cards. You're tired, sleep. Isn't that a simple concept of life? In the program, we have a name for that. We call it the HALT principle. Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. But again, if you're hungry, eat. If you're tired, sleep. If you're angry, get it out. The secret to life is so simple, so beautiful. If you're lonely, reach out to someone. Stay connected. Build family, build people around you. I love my recovery family. I love my wife's family. I love my blood family today. There ain't too many of us left, but I still love them. When you get to 84 years old, you begin to realize, I had 2 big rude awakenings this week. At the front of Starting Point, we have a plaque with the names of the people that helped start Starting Point. And it's ironical. The only name left on there that's still alive is me. Out here in Holiday City, where I live, we built a monument for veterans. I had a committee. I was in charge of the committee. I had 10 people on my committee. Guess who's the only name on that plaque that's still alive? Me. Why is that? Scares the crap out of me when I look at it, to be honest with you. But the bottom line is, because I'm supposed to be here, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? There are no answers to this. Most important thing is, don't let shame hold you down. Spiritually, we have to learn to love ourselves, to celebrate who we are, to open ourselves up, and to realize the beautiful part about it. And remember, you can even see, she's got a beautiful chat. Thanks, Joe. You can actually watch John Bradshaw on YouTube. See? His body may have died, but he's still out there haunting us. It's not a problem at all. That's the beautiful part about life. That's why I keep a YouTube channel, because I'm going to haunt you after I'm gone. It's totally amazing, especially you, Pat. It's not a problem. But the bottom line is we have to learn to laugh a little bit, to celebrate a little bit, to relax a little bit, and somehow, some way things work out. Do they work out the way we planned them? Of course not. I have a little, what can I tell you? It's all part of it. So my prayer tonight is that all of us will embrace the shame in our life. Don't run from it. Embrace it, acknowledge it. Must learn to accept it, reduce it, bring it down to a level where it can become our teacher. So my prayers are that we're able to do this in our life and just be good to ourselves. And then next week we'll talk about healing the shame that binds us. We'll talk about shame reduction. We'll talk about the healing process. So let us pray. God, we come before you in prayer. We come before you in gratitude. We ask the God of our understanding, our divine presence. We come in gratitude to say thank you. Thank you for this journey. Thank you for the journey of life. Thank you for the little things. Thank you for the moments. Teach us to be able just to embrace, to learn, to experience all the little things of life. Teach us not to try to figure life out, but to live life. To realize that we have to go through our struggles. We realize that shame is part of that struggle. And yet somehow, some way, we can walk through it. We're able to handle it and move forward. Will it be easy? No. Maybe it's not supposed to be. But you are always there being our teacher. You're our guide. You're our strength. So we call upon you to be with us, to guide us, and to strengthen us on this beautiful journey. The journey of recovery, the journey of life, the journey of learning, and the journey of growth. So thank you. We come here tonight in gratitude. We come in love. We come in humility. We're able to accept and learn the gift of who we are as people. Thank you. We ask your blessing and we ask your guidance in all that we do. Teach us to be open to grow and open to learn. We pray and we ask this in your name. Amen.